You might chase endless deadlines, believing that true peace lies just beyond the next promotion, the next fleeting acquisition. You might scroll through flawlessly curated lives, convinced that happiness is a state you simply haven't achieved yet. But what if that relentless pursuit itself, that constant grasping chase, is the very source of the tremor you feel deep inside? If this resonates with you, consider subscribing, sharing your own thoughts below, or simply giving a like to join this journey toward a profound, unshakable clarity. Now, picture yourself facing a day where every meticulously laid plan unravels. A morning commute dissolves into an infuriating snarl of traffic. An urgent email arrives, demanding immediate attention for a crisis you played no part in creating. You feel the surge, the familiar, hot wave of frustration tightening your chest, whispering promises of a ruined day, a lost battle. You resist it, of course, pushing back against the encroaching chaos, yet it still clings to you, a persistent shadow. You watch as others around you succumb, their faces contorting, their voices rising, their anger a palpable force that only feeds the surrounding disquiet. And for a fleeting moment, you find yourself on the precipice, teetering on the edge of joining their cacophony. But then, a subtle shift begins. A quiet, almost imperceptible question forms in the deep recesses of your mind. Is this external maelstrom truly the cause of your inner turbulence? Or is it something else entirely, something far more within your grasp? You begin to observe your own thoughts, the swift judgments, the automatic assumptions about how things should be. You feel the resistance not to the traffic itself, but to the asterix idea of being delayed, the thought of losing control over your meticulously crafted schedule. And in that precise moment of observation, a profound, unsettling truth begins to emerge. The chaos isn't the problem. Your response to it, your desperate clinging to an external order you cannot command, that is where the quake truly originates. You discover the power, the immense, terrifying power, of separating what is truly yours from what never was. The unyielding traffic, the demanding inbox, the shifting plans, these are externals, flowing outside your sphere of influence. But your interpretation, your reaction, your inner peace, these remain eternally, resolutely your own. This realization, it isn't an escape from the storm, but the finding of an unshakable ground within it. That ground you found, amidst the ceaseless quake, it is more than just a realization. It is a doorway, a quiet, unassuming threshold leading into a space, untouched by the clamor, the noise, the incessant demands. They still rage just outside. You can hear them, feel their insistent tug. But now, you possess a choice. You can turn inward. You observe the swirling currents around you, the hurried footsteps, the anxious glances, the sharp words. You see the frantic dance of others, caught in the external web, their faces etched with the very turmoil you once shared. A colleague rushes past, burdened by an invisible weight, muttering frustrations under their breath. Their distress is palpable, a ripple in the air. Yet you find yourself unmoved. This stillness within you isn't born of indifference. It's a deliberate act. You consciously detach your internal landscape from the external storm. You recognize the impulse to react, to absorb the surrounding tension, but you simply let it pass. Like a leaf on a stream, your thoughts about the situation float by, ungrasped. The urgent email, the unexpected demand, they present themselves, but they do not possess you. You are creating a sanctuary, not a place you physically escape to, but a state you cultivate within your own mind. Here, in this inner chamber, no external event can truly penetrate, no harsh word can lodge itself, no unforeseen circumstance can shatter your peace. You become the quiet observer, anchored, while the world outside continues its frantic spin. You understand that your most precious possession, your tranquility, is not something the world can grant, or indeed take away. It is yours to hold, to defend with every breath, and in that profound quiet, You feel the strength of an unshakable refuge. You feel it, don't you? That insidious whisper. The gnawing unease about a future you cannot perfectly chart. Perhaps it's the looming specter of an economic shift, a health concern that lingers like a shadow, or the delicate, unpredictable dance of relationships. You find yourself constructing elaborate mental scenarios, replaying conversations, trying to anticipate every possible twist and turn, every potential setback. You see it in the faces around you, too. The tight jaws, the darting eyes, the restless hands. Your friend, perhaps, consumed by worry over a career path that seems to twist away at every turn, or a family member, paralyzed by fear of something that might happen, refusing to live in the present. You recognize that frantic energy, that desperate attempt to impose order on a world inherently disorderly. You feel the immense, suffocating pressure of trying to hold it all together, to control every variable, every outcome, convinced that if you just worry enough, plan enough, anticipate enough, you can somehow bend the future to your will. But a quiet exhaustion begins to settle upon you. The ceaseless mental acrobatics, the relentless vigilance against phantom threats. It drains you. You begin to question this heavy burden you carry. Is this truly productive? Or is it merely a sophisticated form of self-imprisonment? You observe your own mind creating these intricate narratives of dread, these hypothetical calamities, and then you suffer as if they were already real. Then, a revelation, sharp and undeniable. You realize the vast majority of your anxieties. They cling to things profoundly beyond your reach. The decisions of others, the random acts of fate, the very passage of time itself. You discover the fundamental error, believing that your inner peace depends on the external world conforming to your desires. And that, in a profound and unsettling way, is precisely where your suffering originates. You begin to distinguish, to feel the palpable line between what is truly within your power, your judgments, your intentions, your reactions, and the immense ocean of what is not. This distinction, it doesn't solve the world's problems, but it liberates you from the futile, self-destructive task of trying to. And in that profound surrender, you find a different kind of strength, a liberation from the chains of what you cannot change. That ground you found, that quiet, internal sanctuary, it demands more than mere recognition. It calls for an act, a profound, deliberate release. You recognized the vast ocean of the uncontrollable, the economic shifts, the unpredictable actions of others, the very fickleness of fate. But now comes the deeper, more challenging truth. It is not enough to simply know what you cannot control. The true liberation lies in the asterisk act of letting go. You feel the phantom reins still clutched in your hands. That familiar, anxious grip. You've held them so tightly for so long, convinced that your ceaseless vigilance, your constant worrying, somehow kept the impending disaster at bay. You believed it was your solemn duty to manage every variable, to anticipate every twist, to prevent every negative outcome. You remember the immense pressure, the gnawing exhaustion of trying to steer a colossal ship through an ocean of unpredictable currents. Then you try it. One small, deliberate act of surrender, an outcome at work that's truly beyond your influence. A friend's decision that impacts you directly, yet you cannot, in good conscience, sway. You feel the tremor in your hands, the instinct to tighten your hold again. The ancient fear whispers, what if you let go and everything crumbles into chaos? But you pause, you breathe, and with a conscious, almost ritualistic act of will, you slowly, deliberately loosen your fingers. This is not apathy. This is not passive resignation. It is a profound, active choice. You are intentionally surrendering the illusion of perfect control, the heavy, self-imposed burden of responsibility for things that were never truly yours to command. You redirect your precious energy, not into fighting the inevitable tide, but into strengthening your own vessel. You shift your focus from frantically manipulating external circumstances to diligently cultivating your internal response. You watch as the world outside continues to turn, as events unfold, sometimes favorably, sometimes not. And you realize with a quiet, startling clarity, your letting go did not cause the catastrophe you feared. Instead, it created a space, a profound, unburdened stillness. You still act, yes, with intention and effort in what is controllable, but the frantic, anxious striving, that heavy, self-imposed chain, it has dissolved. You stand lighter, freer, your strength rooted not in a desperate struggle, but in a quiet, unwavering acceptance of what simply is. You feel it, don't you? That familiar lurch in your gut, when a situation unfolds and your mind instantly crafts a narrative. Perhaps a colleague's brief, unsmiling glance, or a friend's delayed response to your message. Instantly, a story takes hold. They are angry. They dislike me. I have failed. You feel the heat rising in your chest, the quickening of your breath, as this internal drama plays out, vivid and urgent. You see others, too, caught in these self-spun tales. A driver cuts someone off, and the immediate, furious judgment, they are a reckless menace, intentionally disrespecting everyone. A loved one forgets a small detail, and the swift conclusion, they don't care about me, not truly. You observe how quickly the neutral fact transforms, how readily an innocent event becomes imbued with deeply personal meaning, often negative, often painful. You realize you have been doing this too, constructing elaborate inner worlds, populated by assumptions and conclusions, often without a single piece of confirming evidence. Then, a quiet, unsettling question begins to surface. Is the event itself truly causing this distress? Or is it the story you are telling yourself about it? You revisit that colleague's glance. Could they simply be preoccupied, tired, unaware of their own expression? That friend's delayed message. Perhaps they are genuinely busy. Perhaps their phone is off. The possibilities stretch out before you, vast and unexplored, beyond your initial, reflexive judgment. You discover the startling truth. The emotional weight, the anxiety, the anger. They often stem not from the external occurrence itself, but from the interpretation, the meaning you assign to it. The initial thought, the automatic assumption, is not an unassailable truth. It is merely a suggestion, a whisper that your mind, in its haste, often accepts as fact. This realization, it demands a sacrifice, a shedding of those comfortable yet distorted narratives. It invites you to pause, to breathe, to question that first visceral reaction. You begin to understand that the power to choose your inner peace lies not in controlling the world, but in meticulously discerning the stories you allow your mind to tell. And in that profound space between event and interpretation lies your true freedom. That profound space between event and interpretation, it is not empty. It is a battlefield, a sacred ground where your peace hangs in the balance. You've identified the distorted lenses, the rapid-fire stories your mind constructs. But recognizing them is only the first step. The true mastery lies in the deliberate act of challenging that first impulse. You feel the familiar tightening. A project deadline shifts unexpectedly, demanding a new surge of effort. Your immediate thought screams, "This is unfair. This is a deliberate sabotage. I am being taken advantage of." You feel the indignation rise, the anger begin to simmer. Your body prepares for battle. But this time, something is different. You pause. A long, deliberate pause. Instead of allowing that initial, emotionally charged story to take root and fester, you interject. You mentally interrogate it. Is this truly unfair? Or merely inconvenient? Is it sabotage or an unforeseen change in circumstances? What actual evidence supports my immediate negative conclusion? You find yourself actively seeking alternative perspectives. Perhaps the deadline shift affects everyone. Perhaps the new requirement emerged from a genuine, larger necessity. You remember a time when you had to make a sudden, inconvenient change, and your intentions were pure. You extend that same possibility, that same humanity, to the current situation. You are not denying your initial feeling, but you are refusing to be ruled by it. This is the alchemy, the transformation of raw emotion into clear, rational thought. You are not passively accepting whatever narrative your mind throws at you. You are actively, consciously choosing a different lens. You are reframing the reality. The situation itself hasn't changed, but your internal experience of it is profoundly altered. The weight lifts. The indignation subsides. Not because the external event magically fixed itself, but because you chose a different path through your own perception. You discover the immense, liberating power of examining your impressions, of separating the objective fact from the subjective judgment. You become the editor of your own mind, discarding the dramatic, often untrue narratives, and choosing instead a story rooted in reason and understanding. And in that deliberate act of challenging your first impulse, you reclaim your inner sovereignty. You feel it, don't you? That hollow ache when you pour your energy, your very essence, into something. A project, a gesture of kindness, a creative endeavor, and it lands with a quiet thud. No applause, no recognition, perhaps even a casual dismissal. You find yourself scrolling, searching for a sign, a digital nod of approval, a fleeting comment that validates your effort. You measure your worth by the echo of others' opinions. You see this relentless chase around you. Friends meticulously curating online personas, their moods swinging wildly with each like or critical remark. Colleagues contorting their ideas, their very identities, to fit the prevailing winds of popular opinion or managerial praise. You observe their joy, so vibrant when lauded, then watch it crumble into despair at the slightest hint of disapproval. You feel the exhausting cycle, the desperate yearning for external affirmation, the constant unspoken question. Am I enough if no one else says I am? Then, a profound, unsettling silence begins to settle. You realize the immense fragility of this foundation, external validation. It is a phantom. See. It can be bestowed one moment and withdrawn the next, entirely beyond your control. It is built on the shifting sands of others, perceptions, their biases, their fleeting attention. To anchor your sense of self, your worth, to such an ephemeral force is to condemn yourself to perpetual instability. You discover a different source of strength, a deeper wellspring of approval. It comes not from the clamor outside, but from the quiet conviction within. You begin to question, did I act with integrity? Did I give my best effort? Did I align my actions with my own values? This shift, it is not about ignoring feedback, but about discerning its true value. You realize that your inherent worth, your dignity, is not a prize to be granted by others, but an unassailable truth within you. It is a light that shines regardless of whether it is applauded or ignored. You learn to become your own most discerning, yet kind, judge. And in that sacred space of self-approval earned through virtuous action, you find an unshakable inner authority. That unshakable inner authority, it is not a gift freely given. It is forged, hardened in the fires of introspection, tempered by the deliberate choice to look inward, away from the clamor. You've recognized the fleeting nature of external validation. Now, the deeper work begins. To discover the true anchors within you, you stand at a crossroads. A decision presents itself, one that offers a path to quick, easy praise, perhaps even a material reward. But deep down, a subtle unease stirs. It would require a compromise. a slight bending of your own principles. You feel the pull of that potential external reward, the imagined applause, the fleeting sense of triumph. For a moment, the old habit resurfaces, seeking approval outside yourself. But then you pause. You reach inward, searching for that quieter, more resonant voice. What do you truly value? Not what society tells you to value, not what your peers celebrate, but what, in your deepest core, truly defines you. Is it integrity? Is it kindness? Is it justice? Is it a relentless pursuit of personal excellence, irrespective of outcome? You begin to articulate these values, not as abstract ideals, but as concrete guides for your actions. You realize that your true worth isn't contingent on accolades or popularity, but on how faithfully you adhere to these internal compass points. When you act in alignment with your integrity, for example, the absence of external praise holds no power over your inner peace. Your peace comes from the entire act itself, from the knowledge that you have honored your own deepest truths. You observe others swayed by the tides of opinion, their actions erratic, their happiness a pendulum swinging wildly. You see their frantic attempts to please everyone and the inevitable exhaustion that follows. And in contrast, you feel the solid, reassuring weight of your own convictions. This isn't stubbornness. It is self-possession. It is the profound liberation of knowing who you are, independent of the world's ever-changing mirror. You discover that true fulfillment doesn't lie in accumulating external goods or opinions, but in living a life that reflects your most authentic, virtuous self. And in that unwavering commitment to your own core values, you become an unshakable force. You feel it, that sudden, raw heat. Perhaps it's a careless slight, a perceived injustice, or a plan abruptly derailed by another's ineptitude. The blood quickens, your jaw tightens. A voice inside snarls, demanding retribution, demanding that the world bend to your violated expectation. You recognize this surge, this familiar, fiery force. It feels powerful, intoxicating even for a moment to yield to its primal demand. You observe it in others, too. A driver honks, their face contorted, fingers gesturing wildly at a minor traffic infraction. A colleague erupts at a meeting, their words sharp, unforgiving, poisoning the very air. You see the immediate destruction it wreaks. Fractured relationships, regrettable words, decisions made in haste that unravel far more than the initial provocation. You feel the immense, suffocating weight of anger's aftermath, having witnessed its devastating wake countless times. And then, a flicker of resistance. A small, rational voice deep within you begins to question, is this surge truly serving me? Is this furious energy truly illuminating the path forward, or merely blinding me? You notice how, in the grip of this emotion, your perception narrows, distorts, nuance vanishes. Understanding becomes impossible. You are no longer engaging with the situation, but being entirely consumed by a story of perceived wrong. You discover a profound, unsettling truth about this potent fire. It rarely ignites from the event itself. Instead, it bursts forth from your own judgment about the event. From the deeply held belief that something asterisk shouldn't be happening, that another person asterisk shouldn't be acting that way, that you asterisk shouldn't be experiencing this inconvenience. Anger, you realize, is often the fierce guardian of your own unfulfilled expectations. This insight, it doesn't extinguish the initial spark, but it illuminates its source. It allows you a crucial, terrifying moment of choice, to feed the flame or to observe it, to question the judgment that fuels its destructive heat. And in that deliberate pause, you reclaim your hand from the fiery wheel. That reclaimed hand from the fiery wheel, it holds a profound power, the power to choose. You've uncovered anger's source, the unmet expectation, the rigid judgment. But mere recognition isn't enough. The true mastery, the cultivation of a cooler hand, lies in the proactive, deliberate strategies you employ before the flames engulf you. You anticipate the potential flashpoint. Perhaps it's a recurring interaction with a difficult personality or a situation known for its unpredictability. Instead of passively waiting for the surge, you mentally rehearse. You prepare your mind, not by trying to control the external event, but by fortifying your internal response. You visualize the scenario, the sharp word, the unexpected setback, and instead of automatically reacting with fury, you consciously inject a pause, a breath, a moment of deliberate internal silence. You remind yourself, this isn't external. It does not define me. My judgment, my response, that is where my power lies. You recall the previous lesson, challenging the initial emotional story. Is this person truly malicious, or merely mistaken, or struggling themselves? Is this truly an insult, or a clumsy expression? You proactively seek understanding, not vengeance. You cultivate empathy, even for those whose actions grate against you. You imagine the pressures they might be facing, the unseen battles they fight. This isn't weakness. It is a profound strength, a deliberate expansion of your own perspective that starves the fire of its fuel. You choose to see their imperfection as part of the shared human condition, rather than a personal affront. And when the moment arrives, the spark of frustration ignites, but it does not consume you. Because you have already laid the groundwork. You have already chosen the cooler hand. Your response is measured. Your words are deliberate. The situation is still challenging, yes, but your inner landscape remains calm, a testament to your preparation. You discover that emotional mastery isn't about suppressing feelings, but about proactively shaping your mind's interpretation and response. It's about building a mental fortress, not to keep the world out, but to ensure your inner peace remains unbreached. And in that deliberate preparation, you become the unshakable master of your own emotional domain. You feel it, don't you? That heavy cloak of pressure, when you stand at the precipice of a new task, a creative endeavor, a significant conversation. Before you even begin, your mind has already painted a picture, perfect execution, flawless delivery, an outcome beyond reproach. You imagine the potential praise, the flawless result, and then the insidious grip of fear, the fear of not measuring up, the fear of falling short of that impossibly high self-imposed standard. You see this paralysis in others too. A friend with a brilliant idea, yet unwilling to share it, terrified it won't be perfect enough. A colleague, meticulously revising a minor detail for hours, postponing completion, caught in the endless loop of almost. You witness the unspoken suffering, the missed opportunities, the dreams left unpursued, all sacrificed on the altar of an unattainable ideal. You feel the familiar tightening in your own chest, the quiet despair that arises when your actual efforts fall short of your mental blueprint of perfection. Then, a gentle yet firm voice begins to challenge this relentless pursuit. What if the insistence on perfection is actually the greatest enemy of progress? What if it is a clever disguise for fear, preventing you from even taking the first courageous step? You discover the cruel paradox. By aiming for an unreachable ideal, you often prevent yourself from reaching any meaningful goal at all. The expectation of flawlessness becomes a gilded cage, trapping your potential. You begin to differentiate between striving for excellence, a noble productive pursuit, and demanding perfection, a self-defeating, paralyzing illusion. Excellence focuses on the effort, the learning, the virtuous intent. Perfection fixates on an unblemished outcome, leaving no room for the messy, human process of growth. This realization, it isn't an invitation to mediocrity, it's an invitation to freedom. Freedom from the tyrannical grip of, what if it's not good enough? It encourages you to act, to learn, to embrace the inherent imperfection of every human endeavor. And in that profound acceptance of your own fallibility and the world's untidiness, you find the true strength to begin. That profound acceptance of your own fallibility, it is a potent seed. It is the soil in which true resilience takes root. You've uncovered the paralyzing illusion of perfection, the fear that holds you captive. Now, the deeper truth emerges. Failure is not the enemy. It is the very pathway to strength. You embark on a new endeavor, a bold step perhaps, an unfamiliar skill to master, a challenging conversation to navigate. And inevitably, predictably, you stumble. You make a mistake. The outcome is not what you envisioned. The old, familiar voice whispers, "You are inadequate. You have failed. You should have known better." You feel the heat of shame, the urge to retreat, to abandon the effort. But this time, you pause. You remember. The path to resilience does not bypass these moments. It embraces them. You consciously choose a different narrative. You observe the mistake not as an indictment of your worth, but as a datum point, a piece of information. What can be learned here? What insight can be gleaned from this imperfection? You begin to distinguish between the asterisk outcome, which is often beyond your complete control, and the asterisk effort, the intention, the learning, which are entirely within your domain. You realize that true failure isn't in falling short of an external standard, but in failing to learn, failing to adapt, failing to continue striving with integrity. You embrace the messy, iterative process of growth, understanding that every misstep is simply a step in disguise. You look around and see successful individuals not as people who never failed, but as those who failed repeatedly, learned profoundly, and kept moving forward. Their resilience wasn't born of perfect execution, but of enduring imperfect processes. You feel the subtle shift in your own perception, from dreading failure to viewing it as an indispensable teacher, a necessary friction that sharpens your resolve and refines your approach. You discover that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it, to embrace the inevitable stumbles, and to rise with greater wisdom. And in that deliberate acceptance of the unfolding, imperfect journey, you forge an unshakable resilience. You feel it, that subtle, insistent pull, the collective hum of expectation, reverberating through your digital space, your conversations, even your unspoken thoughts. You witness the sudden shifts in popular opinion, the rapid condemnations, the almost ritualistic celebration of fleeting trends, and you feel the urge to conform, to adjust your own beliefs, your very expression, to fit the prevailing current, lest you be cast out into the silence of disapproval. You see others caught in this dance. Friends meticulously curating their online selves, their opinions shifting with the algorithmic winds, their fear of ostracism palpable. Colleagues hesitate, biting back their true perspectives, sacrificing authentic thought on the altar of social harmony. You recognize the immense pressure, the unspoken demand to align, to echo the prevailing sentiment, to lose yourself within the larger anonymous voice. Then, a quiet dissent begins to stir within you. A dangerous thought. What if this collective embrace is not a path to truth, but a surrender to illusion? What if the loudest echo is not wisdom, but merely noise? You begin to question the very nature of this pervasive social pressure. Is it a genuine guide or a subtle tyranny? Is your peace truly found in conforming or in standing firm, even alone? You discover the profound, liberating truth. The opinions of the many, the fleeting judgments of the digital crowd, the shifting sands of public consensus. These are externals. They are beyond your control. To anchor your inner world to such fickle forces is to condemn yourself to perpetual instability, to be tossed and turned by every passing wave of sentiment. Your true measure, your inviolable worth, emerges not from external validation, but from the steadfast alignment with your own reasoned judgment, your own cultivated virtue. This realization, it demands a quiet courage, a willingness to stand apart, to trust the compass within you, even when the world outside screams a different direction. You understand that true freedom is not the absence of external pressure, but the internal, unwavering resolve to remain true to your own integrity, regardless of the echo. And in that profound self-possession, you become an unshakable point of clarity amidst the shifting digital tides. That profound self-possession, that unshakable point of clarity, it is not an innate gift. It is a sovereign state, built piece by deliberate piece within the sanctuary of your own mind. You've recognized the clamor of the digital echo chamber, the insidious pull of social pressures. Now, the deeper work begins. To establish your own inner republic, governed by reason, fueled by self-approval. You face a decision. A complex ethical dilemma at work, perhaps. The prevailing sentiment among your peers, or the easiest path, points one way, but your inner compass, honed by your cultivated values, points another. You feel the tension. The fear of being judged, of standing out, of incurring disapproval. The loud world outside screams for conformity, but this time you pause. You turn inward, to your inner republic. You convene your own counsel, reason, integrity, wisdom. You deliberate, not on what others will think, but on what truly aligns with your deepest, most virtuous self. You ask yourself, am I acting with courage? Am I choosing what is right, even if it is unpopular? Am I upholding the values I claim to live by, even when it costs me? You realize that true approval comes not from the fleeting applause of the crowd, but from the quiet, unwavering affirmation of your own conscience. When you make a decision, when you take an action, based on your own reasoned judgment and virtuous principles, the absence of external validation holds no power. Your peace stems from the unshakable knowledge that you have governed yourself well. You observe the endless striving of those perpetually seeking external approval, their identities fluid, their peace contingent on the whims of others. And in contrast, you feel the solid, reassuring foundation of your own self-respect. This is not arrogance. It is autonomy. It is the profound liberation of knowing that your worth is not a commodity to be granted or revoked by the outside world, but an inherent, inviolable truth of your being. You discover that the most powerful form of freedom is found not in escaping external judgment, but in cultivating an internal fortress so strong that external judgment simply cannot penetrate its walls. And in that unwavering commitment to your own inner republic, you stand as an unshakable testament to your own enduring wisdom. You feel it, don't you? That heavy, invisible weight, the relentless hum of unaddressed tasks, promises whispered to yourself, projects half-finished, obligations looming. You glance at your screen, a digital scroll of demands, or perhaps a cluttered desk, each item a silent accusation. The sheer volume overwhelms, a suffocating blanket of shoulds and musts that stretches endlessly into the horizon. You observe this burden in the eyes of others. A colleague rushing from one urgent request to the next, their peace sacrificed to the tyranny of the immediate. A friend perpetually apologizing for delayed responses, their joy dimmed by the shadow of an ever-growing list. You recognize the familiar internal monologue. I must do all of this. Everything is equally important. My worth is tied to completing every single item. You feel the desperate, frantic energy of trying to grasp every thread, to fulfill every expectation, internal and external, convinced that true peace lies just beyond the last completed task. Then, a profound exhaustion begins to settle. The ceaseless mental juggling, the guilt of the undone, the anxiety of the still to be done. It drains your very essence. A quiet, insistent question arises. Is the list itself the problem, or is it my relationship to it? You discover a critical distinction. The items on the list are mere externals, neutral. They exist. But the asterisk weight you feel, the anxiety, the sense of personal failure, that is your own making. It stems from the attachment to completing everything, from the judgment that every item carries equal significance, from the illusion that your peace depends on a perfectly cleared ledger. You realize the true burden is not the task, but the asterisk's belief that you must and can control the entirety of its completion, perfectly and immediately. This realization, it demands a different kind of strength, a discernment, to differentiate between what is truly essential, what is within your power to initiate right now, and the vast sea of things that, for this moment, can simply exist without your anxious grip. And in that profound act of discernment, you begin to loosen the suffocating weight of the endless to-do. You understand that your peace is not found at the end of the list, but in the wisdom of choosing what truly matters in this very moment. That profound act of discernment, it releases the suffocating weight. You've recognized the illusion of needing to complete everything at once. Now the deeper wisdom emerges. Momentum is not born from a frantic race, but from a single, deliberate step. You stand before a daunting task, a complex report, a difficult conversation, a significant personal goal. The sheer scope of it can still feel overwhelming, threatening to drag you back into the paralysis of indecision. The old voices whisper, "It's too much. You don't know where to start. You'll never finish it all." But this time, you pause. You choose stillness. You do not try to conquer the mountain in a single leap. Instead, you focus your entire awareness on the very first, smallest, most attainable action. For the report, it might be simply opening the document. For the conversation, just crafting the opening sentence in your mind. For the goal, merely defining the immediate, tangible next step. You detach your expectation from the monumental tall completion of the task and attach it solely to the virtuous initiation of that first, tiny action. You realize that your power lies not in controlling the entire journey, but in mastering this very moment, this single choice to begin. The outcome of the entire project remains an external, something to be influenced, but not guaranteed. But the act of taking the first step, that is entirely yours. You feel the subtle shift. The initial resistance begins to dissolve. The weight on your shoulders lightens, not because the mountain has shrunk, but because you have stopped trying to lift it all at once. The anxiety about the asterisk entire process gives way to the focused, quiet determination of this one master action. You experience the profound truth. Motion generates more motion. That initial push, no matter how small, breaks the inertia, creating a ripple effect that often carries you further than you could have imagined. You discover that true productivity is not about superhuman effort, but about wise, intentional initiation. It's about respecting the power of the singular, focused beginning. And in that deliberate act of taking the first step, you engineer momentum from stillness, moving forward with quiet, unshakable purpose. You feel it, don't you? That gaping chasm when something you held dear is ripped away. A cherished presence, a long-held dream, a future you meticulously constructed. The sudden, brutal absence echoes in your very bones, leaving a cold, crushing void. The mind screams for what was, resists the stark reality, clinging desperately to fragments of memory, to the phantom warmth of what is no longer. You see this profound sorrow etched onto the faces of others. A friend, adrift after a sudden parting. A family member, burdened by the silent weight of a future unfulfilled. You observe the frantic search for meaning, for blame, for a way to undo what has been irrevocably done. You feel the intense, almost unbearable longing to return to a time when that which is lost was still within your grasp, convinced that true peace is now forever fractured. Then, amidst the raw, unsettling ache, a quiet, ancient truth begins to surface. What if this very resistance, this desperate clinging, is the chisel that carves the deepest wound? What if your suffering comes not from the loss itself, but from the rigid expectation that what is given must forever remain? You discover the profound, unsettling reality. All things in this transient existence are on loan. Every person you love, every joy you experience, every material possession you acquire, they are given to you for a time. You are the temporary custodian. The suffering intensifies when you mistake the loan for permanent ownership, when you judge the inevitable return as an unfair theft rather than the natural order. The pain of separation is real, yes, but the asterisk prolonged agony often stems from an unwillingness to accept the impermanence that defines all life. This realization, it does not diminish your grief, but it begins to untangle the knots of resistance. It invites you to acknowledge the profound, painful beauty of having held something so precious, even for a finite time. And in that profound acceptance of life's inherent impermanence, you find a quiet, resilient strength, born not of denial, but of deep, unvarnished truth. That quiet, resilient strength, born of deep, unvarnished truth. It is not merely about enduring loss. It is about learning to dance with the very nature of impermanence. You've acknowledged that all things are on loan. Now the deeper wisdom emerges, to find peace not despite life's cycles, but tarred within them. You observe the world around you, the relentless turning of seasons, the ebb and flow of the tides, the constant birth and decay in the natural world. You see the vibrant leaf flourish, then gracefully fall, returning its essence to the earth. You watch a child grow, changing daily, becoming a different self with each passing year. You realize that everything is in motion, constantly transforming, constantly becoming. And then, you turn this same gaze inward. You accept that your own being, your own experiences, are part of this grand, impermanent dance. The moments of joy, of connection, of profound peace. They too are temporary. You no longer cling to them, desperately wishing they would last forever. Instead, you taste them more fully, savor them with a deeper appreciation. Understanding their fleeting nature makes them all the more precious. You feel the pain of a memory, a loved one gone, a dream unfulfilled. The ache is still present, but now it is interwoven with a quiet gratitude. Gratitude for the privilege of having experienced that connection, that dream, that presence, even for a finite time. You see the loss not as an ending, but as a turning point in the cycle. A release, making space for new growth, new experiences, new forms of beauty to emerge. This practice, it is not about detachment from emotion. It is about a profound, active engagement with reality, stripped of the illusion of permanence. It is about releasing the rigid grip of expectation and opening your hands to the natural rhythm of life itself. You discover that true peace is not found in static possession, but in the graceful movement with life's inevitable currents. And in that profound acceptance of life's ceaseless cycles, you become a living testament to tranquil flow. You feel it, don't you? That fleeting rush when you acquire something new. That momentary satisfaction when a long-sought goal is finally within your grasp. Yet, even as you hold it, a subtle whisper begins. Is this all there is? Almost instantly, your gaze shifts to the next promotion, the newer model, the grander experience. The horizon always seems to recede, leaving you perpetually reaching. You see it in the faces around you too. The colleague who just landed a raise, already lamenting the next salary bracket. The friend who bought their dream home only to fixate on the neighbor's larger garden. You observe this frantic consumption, this constant comparison, the desperate attempt to fill an unfillable void with external acquisitions. You feel the deep, pervasive sense of insufficiency, driven by a relentless internal tally of what you lack. Then, a quiet, unsettling question forms. When does enough become enough? Why does the satisfaction of achieving, of acquiring, dissipate so rapidly? Is it truly the item itself that brings joy, or merely the chase, the brief illusion of impending fulfillment? You begin to sense a deeper pattern, a relentless thirst no external river can truly quench. You discover the profound, unsettling truth, the scarcity you perceive. It is not a flaw in the world, but a distortion within your own mind. It is the insatiable nature of unchecked desire. You realize that true wealth, true contentment, is not found in the asterisk accumulation of externals, but in the asterisk limitation of your desires. When you constantly chase what you don't have, you inherently devalue what you do. Your happiness becomes a hostage to what lies beyond your present moment, beyond your true control. This realization, it doesn't demand asceticism, but it invites a profound shift, to cultivate appreciation for what is present, to find richness not in more, but in the wisdom of desiring well. That wisdom, the profound truth that true contentment lies not in endless acquisition, but in the limitation of desire. It is more than an intellectual understanding. It is an invitation, an opening into a different way of seeing, of experiencing, the very fabric of your existence. You've recognized the scarcity mindset as a distortion within. Now, the deeper work begins to unlock the boundless wealth of what already porous. You find yourself in a mundane moment, perhaps sipping a simple cup of water, walking a familiar path, or simply feeling the warmth of sunlight on your skin. The old mind, accustomed to chasing the asterisk next thing, might dismiss this as unremarkable, a placeholder until something better arrives. But you pause. You deliberately shift your gaze. You allow your senses to fully engage. This water, it is not just liquid, it is hydration, life-sustaining. It is the miraculous cycle of earth, sky, and human ingenuity that brought it to your lips, this path. It is solid ground beneath your feet, supporting your journey. This sunlight, a pure, unearned gift of warmth, energy, light itself. You begin to peel back the layers of the ordinary, revealing the extraordinary. You observe others, still caught in the frantic pursuit, their attention always fractured, always looking beyond the present, never truly trice tear. They possess much, yet remain perpetually unsatisfied, their minds already cataloging the next desire. And, in contrast, you feel a profound, quiet richness, not from gaining anything new, but from fully appreciating what you already possess, what is already unfolding around you. This is not a forced optimism. It is a radical act of presence. It is the understanding that abundance is not a quantity of externals, but a quality of attention. You realize that the greatest treasure is not found in what you acquire, but in the deliberate cultivation of gratitude for the simple, fundamental realities of your life. Every breath, every beat of your heart, every moment of clarity is a profound gift. You discover that true wealth resides within your capacity to be present, to perceive, and to value the inexhaustible riches of the now. And in that deliberate act of appreciation, you uncover the abundant present, a wellspring of contentment that flows eternally from within. You feel it, don't you? That sudden, seismic rupture, when the very ground beneath your feet gives way. Not a tremor, but a profound, shattering blow. A swift, unexpected diagnosis that redefines your future. A sudden, irrevocable loss that leaves an aching void. A betrayal so deep it cracks the foundation of trust you built. The world, as you understood it, violently shifts, threatening to engulf you whole. You feel the raw, visceral shock, the desperate urge to resist, to push back against an undeniable force that is simply happening. You see others caught in similar gales. Some stand rigidly, defiantly, against the storm, only to splinter and break under its relentless pressure. Their spirits, once so vibrant, collapse into despair, overwhelmed by the sheer injustice. Others rage. Their fury, a desperate, futile attempt to reassert control over the uncontrollable. Their inner landscape ravaged by a battle they cannot win. You feel the powerful undertow of their pain, the seductive pull to join them in their rigid resistance, their overwhelming sorrow. But then, a quiet, ancient wisdom stirs from the deep. A question, whispered from the oldest part of your being. Does the mighty oak survive the tempest by being unyielding, or by learning to sway, to flex, to surrender to the force without breaking its core? Is true strength a rigid defiance, or a profound, resilient adaptability? You discover a profound, unsettling truth about adversity. The external blow itself, however devastating, is merely an event, a fact, but your response to it, your internal posture in its face, that is where your power, your very preservation lies. You realize that to break is to cling to an immutable vision, to demand that the world conform to your fragile expectations. To bend, however, is to acknowledge the force, to feel the profound impact, but to allow your inner self to flex, to absorb the shock, to find a new equilibrium without abandoning your essential nature. It is not about denying the wound, but refusing to let the wound become your entire story. This isn't weakness. It is a profound, active choice of resilience, an act of intellectual and emotional courage. You let the winds howl, you let the structures crumble, knowing that your inner core, your reason, your virtue, your capacity to adapt, remains unbreached, ready to seek new paths, to find new ways of being, even within the altered landscape. And in that deliberate act of bending, you forge an unyielding, flexible strength that nothing, truly nothing, can shatter. That unyielding, flexible strength, forged in the crucible of bending without breaking, it is a testament to your endurance. You've weathered the initial shock, surrendered to the uncontrollable current. But merely surviving is not the final chapter. Now, the deeper truth demands attention. Adversity is not simply to be endured, but to be actively, deliberately transformed. You stand in the aftermath. The landscape has shifted irrevocably. There is a lingering ache, a raw vulnerability. Where the wound once was, you could shrink from it. You could build walls, retreat into the safety of what remains unbroken. The temptation to avoid future pain, to cling to the illusion of a world without challenge, is powerful. You observe others, perhaps, who have done just this, their spirits diminished, their lives constricted by the very blows they survived. But a different path calls to you. A quiet, terrifying conviction begins to take root. What if this very disruption, this profound difficulty, is not a curse, but a profound, albeit brutal, opportunity? What if the universe, in its indifferent wisdom, has presented you with the raw material, not for despair, but for an unprecedented strengthening of your very spirit? You begin to practice. You approach the lingering pain, the residual fear, not as an enemy to be banished, but as a teacher. You actively seek out the lessons hidden within the hardship. Did this challenge demand greater patience? Then you cultivate patience, consciously. Did it require immense courage? Then you seek out small, daily acts of bravery. Did it expose a reliance on externals? Then you work to deepen your internal wellspring of self-sufficiency. You understand that the weight of the hammer, the heat of the forge, is precisely what makes the steel stronger. This isn't about ignoring suffering. It is about a radical act of ownership. It is choosing to love your fate, not because the events were pleasant, but because they are yours, and within them lies the potential for your greatest growth. You see the obstacle not as an impediment, but as the very way forward. You are not just healing, you are rebuilding with intent, with a newfound, unshakable resilience. You discover that the deepest strength is not found in avoiding adversity, but in skillfully extracting its hidden virtues, transforming pain into profound personal power. And in that deliberate, alchemical act of turning hardship into strength, you become an unyielding, unbreakable force. You feel it, don't you? That heavy stillness. When you stand at a crossroads, two paths laid bare before you. One promises security, perhaps, but demands a compromise of spirit. The other offers freedom, a true alignment with your deepest self, yet shimmers with the terrifying uncertainty of the unknown. Both possess their potent allure, their equally potent fears. The mind churns, weighing every consequence, attempting to perfectly predict a future that stubbornly refuses to be charted. You see this paralysis in others too. Friends trapped in endless indecision, their lives stalled, waiting for an undeniable sign, a guarantee of the right choice. Colleagues agonizing over career shifts, unable to commit, fearing the regret of a path not taken or a path poorly chosen. You feel the profound tension within yourself, the desperate yearning for a clear answer, a cosmic arrow pointing unequivocally forward, convinced that peace resides only in choosing the *perfect 9's option. Then, a quiet, unsettling question begins to surface from the deep. What if there is no perfect path, no single, divinely ordained choice, in the way your anxious mind craves? What if the true peace is found not in the outcome, but in the integrity of the choosing itself? You discover a profound, liberating truth. The external results of your decisions, the success or failure, the gains or losses, these are largely outside your ultimate control. They are externals, indifferent to your anxious deliberations. Your true power, your true moral arena, lies precisely within the act of deciding. It lies in your intention, your reason, your commitment to your own highest values. Regardless of what the capricious winds of fate may deliver, you realize that to choose well is not to guarantee a pleasant outcome, but to act in alignment with your virtue. This isn't a surrender to recklessness. It is a profound, active engagement with what is truly yours to command. You deliberate, yes, with all the reason and foresight you possess, but when the moment of choice arrives, you release the desperate attachment to a specific result. You choose, not based on fear or external promise, but on the quiet, unshakable conviction of what is right, what is brave, what is truly you. And in that deliberate act of choosing, guided by your inner compass, unbound by the fear of unknown consequences, you find a profound, liberating serenity, even amidst the deepest uncertainty. That profound, liberating serenity, found in choosing by your inner compass, unbound by fear. It is not a destination, but a practice. You've embraced the integrity of deciding. Now the deeper wisdom emerges. To cultivate the very solace of serenity within that moment of choice, allowing reason, not impulse, to guide your hand. You feel the familiar swell. A sudden opportunity presents itself, dazzling with promise. Or, conversely, a crisis demands immediate action, stirring a potent blend of fear and urgency. Your gut instinct screams. Emotions surge, pushing you to react, to seize, to flee, to lash out. The temptation to let these powerful currents sweep you into an instant decision is immense, compelling. You feel the raw, almost overwhelming force of these impulses demanding expression. You observe others around you, friends who dive headfirst into commitments, blinded by initial excitement, only to find themselves drowning in regret. Colleagues who make reactive choices under pressure, their fear dictating their actions, leading to predictable, damaging outcomes. You recognize that frantic, unthinking motion, the sudden, sharp turns of a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave of transient feeling. But then, a quiet, deliberate resistance takes hold within you, a conscious unclenching of the emotional grip. You force a pause, a breath, a moment of profound, internal stillness, even as the world screams for haste. In this sacred pause, you invite reason to step forward. You mentally lay out the facts, dispassionately, as if observing a chessboard. What are the objective realities? What are the verifiable truths, stripped of emotional coloring? You question the impulse itself. What emotion is driving this? Is it fear, greed, a desire for approval? And what would a virtuous person, acting with wisdom and justice, choose in this exact moment? You seek clarity, not comfort. You detach your internal state from the immediate gratification or aversion the decision might provoke. You understand that true serenity isn't the absence of difficult choices, but the ability to navigate them with a mind unclouded by the transient storms of emotion. You discover the immense, enduring power of acting with a cool, clear head, of allowing your rational faculty to deliberate, to weigh, to discern before you commit. This isn't coldness, it is profound self-mastery, ensuring that your actions flow from your most elevated self. And in that deliberate, reasoned deliberation, you find the quiet, unshakable strength of serene, logical action. You feel it, don't you? That relentless current, dragging you ever deeper into the swirling vortex of professional demands. The inbox, overflowing. The deadlines, tightening. The constant, unspoken expectation to asterisks. Do more, achieve more, be more. In every waking moment, you find yourself pushing past exhaustion, sacrificing stillness, convinced that your worth, your very existence, is measured by your output, by the ceaseless hum of your productivity. You see it in the eyes of others, too. Colleagues chained to their devices, their private lives fading into the background, their conversations dominated by metrics and achievements. Friends, once vibrant, now hollowed by the endless chase, their peace shattered by the tyranny of urgency. You recognize that frantic, almost desperate energy, the belief that if you only work harder, longer, faster, you will finally earn the elusive prize of peace, of success. You feel the insidious pressure to conform, to join this relentless race, lest you be left behind, deemed insufficient. Then, a profound weariness settles over you. The ceaseless striving, the perpetual state of being on, it begins to extract a heavy toll. A quiet, terrifying question begins to echo in the deep recesses of your mind. Is this endless climb truly leading me to fulfillment, or merely to a precipice of burnout, an abyss of lost self? Is my value truly contingent on this external churn? You discover a profound, unsettling truth. The hustle, the incessant demand for output. It is an external. It is a system, indifferent to your inner well-being. But your judgment that your worth is tied to this system, that your identity is defined by your professional achievements. That is the true trap. You realize that true value, unshakable peace, resides not in the accumulation of external accolades or the endless checking of tasks, but in the cultivation of your inner virtues, your integrity, your disciplined effort, your wisdom in discerning what truly matters. This realization, it doesn't demand that you abandon your professional life, but it invites a profound recalibration to separate your inherent dignity from the fluctuating tides of professional demand, from the external metrics of success. You understand that your true worth is not a wage you earn, but a quality you cultivate within. And in that profound discernment between who you are and what you do, you find an unshakable intrinsic value. That unshakable intrinsic value, uncovered by discerning who you are from what you do, it is a profound beacon. You've seen the relentless churn of the hustle culture, the external demands threatening to define you. But merely recognizing this distinction is not enough. Now, the deeper wisdom emerges, to actively, deliberately redefine what success means to asterisk you beyond the exhausting grind. You stand at the edge of a new day, the usual avalanche of tasks already piling up. The old, familiar impulse to simply react, to dive into the frantic current, still tugs at you. You feel the pressure, the unspoken expectation to be constantly, busy, perpetually on. Your mind still whispers, more output equals more worth. Faster equals better. But this time, you pause. A profound, deliberate pause. You do not immediately succumb to the external rhythm. Instead, you turn inward, to that intrinsic value you discovered. What is your true intention for this day? Is it merely to complete a list, or to apply yourself with integrity, with focus, with virtue? You begin to realize that your ultimate success is not measured by the sheer volume of tasks crossed off, nor by the fleeting applause of others, but by the asterisk quality of your effort, the wisdom of your choices, and the steadfastness of your character in the face of demands. You observe your colleagues, perhaps, still caught in the frantic dance, their peace sacrificed for the illusion of control. Their days are a blur of reactivity, their satisfaction always just out of reach, tethered to external outcomes. And in contrast, you feel a quiet, profound power begin to settle within you. You choose your pace. You approach each task, not with frantic haste, but with deliberate, focused attention. You understand that your agency lies not in controlling the demands themselves, but in mastering your approach to them. This is not about doing less. It is about doing stand better, with more intention, with a deeper sense of purpose that transcends external reward. You redefine success, not as achieving every external metric, but as acting with virtue in every moment, as striving with your best effort, and accepting what lies beyond your control. You discover that true fulfillment doesn't flow from the relentless grind, but from the deliberate, virtuous application of your faculties, moment by precious moment. And in that purposeful pacing, you redefine success itself, making it an unshakable internal achievement. You feel it, don't you? That subtle, gnawing ache, when a loved one's words, an unmet expectation, or a profound misunderstanding creates a sudden, deep chasm between you. Perhaps it's a spouse who dismisses your concerns, a friend who repeatedly disappoints, or a family member whose entrenched views clash violently with your own. You feel the surge of frustration, the desperate yearning for them to just see it your way, asterisk. To asterisk just understand, to asterisk just change. You see this fraying of threads everywhere. Your friends lamenting partners who won't listen, colleagues despairing over difficult bosses who refuse to adapt. You observe their pain, their relentless efforts to coax, to convince, to cajole others into conformity with their own desires. You feel the immense, suffocating weight of this unspoken demand, that your peace, your happiness, your very sense of security is contingent upon another person's thoughts, feelings, and actions aligning perfectly with your own. Then, a quiet, unsettling question begins to surface from the deep. How much of this pain comes not from the other person's actions, but from your desperate, futile attempt to control what is fundamentally uncontrollable? Their inner world. You discover a profound, liberating truth, another person's mind, their beliefs, their perspectives, their emotional responses, even their choices. These are externals. They are as much beyond your direct command as the weather or the turning of the tides. To demand that they think or feel or act precisely as you wish, for your own comfort, is to condemn yourself to perpetual frustration. Your relentless pursuit of their change, you realize, is often the very force that tightens the knot of discord, draining your peace and theirs. This realization, it isn't an invitation to apathy or to abandon connection, but it is a profound shift in focus. It invites you to release the illusion of perfect control over another's soul. It demands that you separate their choices from your own inner tranquility, and instead turn your attention to the only thing truly within your power. Your own reactions, your own communication, your own integrity within the relationship. And in that profound surrender of the futile desire to control another, you find the true strength to mend, not by force, but by a quiet, self-possessed wisdom. That profound surrender of the futile desire to control another, it opens a new space. You've accepted that their inner world is beyond your command. Now the deeper wisdom emerges, to actively build a bridge, not of coercion, but of understanding. You face a difficult conversation. A loved one expresses a viewpoint sharply at odds with your own, perhaps even an opinion that feels personally offensive. The old impulse to correct, to argue, to defend your position still flares. You feel the familiar tightening, the urge to retreat or to forcefully impose your logic, but you remember, their mind is their own. So, you pause. A long, deliberate pause. Instead of constructing your counterargument, you shift your entire focus. You listen, truly listen, not for points of contention, but for the underlying impression, driving their words. What are their beliefs? What are their fears? What is the asterisk logic they are operating under? However distorted it might seem to you, you realize their actions, their words, flow from their internal state, their unique judgments, their own understanding of what is good or bad. You discover a profound, almost terrifying truth. Their internal landscape, though different from yours, is as valid and as complex to them as yours is to you. You are not condoning their views. You are simply seeking to understand the source, the internal reasoning that leads them to their conclusions. You allow for the possibility that, from their perspective, with their beliefs and experiences, their actions make a certain kind of sense. This act of seeking understanding, it is not an absorption of their pain, but an expansion of your own wisdom. It doesn't erase the disagreement, but it transforms the relationship from a battle of wills into an exploration of shared humanity. You are no longer fighting their reality, you are witnessing it. And in that profound act of seeking comprehension, you build the bridge of understanding, connecting with a quiet, unshakable empathy that transcends mere agreement. You feel it, don't you? That insidious whisper, a voice rising from the deepest, most shadowed corners of your own mind. You stand at the brink of a new challenge, a bold proposition, or perhaps even a simple act of vulnerability with another. And just as you prepare to step forward, the whisper begins. You are not ready. You are not enough. You will fail. They will see through you. It is a familiar, chilling refrain, a relentless barrage of doubt that seeks to paralyze you before you even begin. You see this silent struggle mirrored in the lives around you. A friend, brilliant and capable, yet perpetually hesitates, convinced their work is never quite finished, never truly good enough. A colleague, brimming with innovative ideas, yet shrinks from presenting them. Crippled by a fear of judgment that originates not from external critics but from within. You recognize the profound suffering caused by this internal tyrant, this self-inflicted wound, this constant undermining current that drains your confidence and stifles your very potential. Then, a quiet, defiant question begins to surface. Whose voice is that truly? Is it an objective truth, or merely an old, deeply ingrained habit of thought? Is this inner critic genuinely protecting you, or subtly imprisoning you? You begin to examine its claims, its pronouncements, not as undeniable facts, but as mere impressions. Fragile, subjective interpretations, lacking any true authority unless you grant it. You discover a profound, liberating truth. Your self-worth is not a verdict delivered by this internal judge. It is an inherent quality, an unassailable truth of your being. The inner critic's judgments are just that, judgments. They are not absolute. Your power lies not in silencing the voice entirely, which is often futile, but in discerning its nature, in rationally evaluating its claims, and in refusing to allow it to dictate your actions or define your potential. You choose to act with courage and integrity, even as the whisper persists, knowing that your virtue is independent of its cruel assessment. This isn't self-delusion. It is profound self-mastery. It is the conscious decision to elevate reason over reactive self-condemnation. And in that deliberate act of discernment, you reclaim your inner authority, silencing the tyranny of self-doubt not by force, but by quiet, unwavering truth. That reclaimed inner authority, it's a profound foundation. You've learned to discern the inner critic's whispers, to see them as mere impressions without inherent truth. But true, enduring peace demands more than just discernment. It requires active construction. It requires building a citadel. You stand at the threshold of a daunting challenge, perhaps a crucial presentation where your ideas will be scrutinized, or a personal vulnerability you must bravely reveal. The old voices, both internal and external, begin to gather. The echo of past failures, the imagined ridicule, the harsh judgment of others. You feel the familiar currents of fear, the subtle tug towards retreat, towards shrinking from the arena. Your mind, for a moment, feels exposed, an open field vulnerable to every attack. But this time, you do not flee. You do not cower. You pause. A long, deliberate pause. And in that stillness, you begin to visualize. You are not a passive observer of your thoughts, nor a defenseless target of external assaults. You are the architect. You begin to construct your inner citadel. You recognize that your true self, your core of reason and virtue, resides within walls you can fortify. The outer ramparts are your practiced indifference to externals, to the opinions of others, to the fickle turns of fortune. The gate to this inner sanctuary is your power of ascent, the profound ability to choose what you allow in. You sift through the incoming thoughts, the criticisms, the self-doubts. Is this impression a reasoned fact? Is it aligned with truth and virtue? If not, it remains outside the walls. You do not engage it. You do not give it power. It may swirl outside, but it cannot breach your core. You discover a profound, almost sacred truth. Your mind is not a battlefield where you are constantly under siege. It is a sovereign domain, a sanctuary you meticulously design and fiercely defend. This is not about building walls to shut out the world, but to filter its noise, to prevent its chaos from reaching the hallowed ground of your inner peace. You are not impervious to feeling, but you become impervious to being shattered. You feel an unshakable sense of security. The world may rage, critics may scoff, misfortunes may strike, but your inner citadel remains unbreached, a testament to your vigilant, deliberate self-mastery. And in that profound architectural act of fortifying your mind, you build an unassailable fortress for your own enduring tranquility. You feel it, don't you? That heavy, clinging weight, the subtle but persistent pressure to acquire, to possess, to surround yourself with more, the newest device, the latest trend, the upgraded experience. You chase the fleeting rush of unboxing, the momentary thrill of ownership, convinced that this next time's acquisition will finally deliver the elusive peace, the enduring satisfaction that always seems to hover just beyond your current grasp. You see it everywhere. Friends drowning their restlessness in endless shopping sprees, their homes overflowing with possessions that bring only temporary solace. Colleagues measuring their self-worth by the luxury of their cars, the brand of their clothes, perpetually comparing, perpetually wanting. You observe their frantic pursuit, their joy always conditional, always dependent on the asterisk next thing they believe they need. And you feel the insidious current pulling you into this same exhausting dance of accumulation. Then, a profound, unsettling silence begins to settle within. A quiet, terrifying question forms in the deep recesses of your mind. Am I truly owning these things? Or are they, in a subtle, insidious way, beginning to own me? Is this endless accumulation liberating me, or trapping me in a gilded cage of desire? You discover a profound, liberating truth. The more you gather, the more you have to guard. The more you acquire, the more you have to maintain. to worry about, to protect from loss. Your possessions, once symbols of freedom, become chains. They demand your time, your energy, your mental space. You realize that true wealth is not measured by what you have, but by what you don't need. The true trap is not the object itself, but the relentless, unexamined new This realization, it isn't an invitation to poverty. It is an invitation to profound freedom, freedom from the tyranny of insatiable desire, from the endless, exhausting chase. It demands a deliberate separation, recognizing the utility of things, but severing your peace from their possession. And in that profound act of liberation, from the endless cycle of accumulation, you find the quiet, unshakable richness of true sufficiency. That quiet, unshakable richness, born of true sufficiency, it is more than a concept. It is a profound lived experience. You've severed your peace from the pursuit of endless accumulation. Now the deeper wisdom emerges, to actively cultivate the joy of enough, liberating your spirit from the tyranny of want. You stand amidst your belongings. Perhaps a closet full of clothes, a kitchen stocked with various appliances, a digital library of entertainment. The old mind, still conditioned by scarcity, might whisper about what's missing, what could be improved, what new item would complete the picture. You feel the subtle pull of discontent, the habitual urge to seek more. But this time, you pause. A long, deliberate pause. You do not look at what you lack. Instead, you turn your gaze upon what you have. This simple shirt. It provides warmth, decency. This humble meal. It nourishes your body, sustains your energy. This quiet moment. It offers peace, a sanctuary for your thoughts. You begin to appreciate the functionality, the simple beauty, the unearned gifts that already surround you. You realize that true contentment isn't about reaching a destination of perfect possession, but about shifting your internal posture. It's about consciously choosing gratitude for the present moment, for the simple fact of having what you need, and often, far more than that. You observe others, perhaps, who possess vast fortunes, yet remain perpetually anxious, perpetually striving, their inner world a desert of unfulfilled longing. And in contrast, you feel a profound, quiet abundance, not from external acquisition, but from internal appreciation. This is not a denial of reality, nor a rejection of growth. It is a profound act of self-mastery. It is the understanding that joy is not found in the asterisk size of your cup, but in how deeply you drink from the water it already holds. You actively train your mind to see the richness, the plenitude, in the ordinary, the overlooked, the simply present. You discover that freedom isn't found in having everything you want, but in wisely wanting what you already have. And in that deliberate cultivation of gratitude for what is already present, you unlock the boundless joy of true sufficiency, making your spirit unshakably free. You feel it, don't you? That familiar pull, that automatic, almost unconscious slide back into an old habit you know doesn't serve you. Maybe it's reaching for your phone instead of truly connecting in a meaningful conversation, or defaulting to a negative thought pattern about a situation you can't control. You find yourself going through the motions, repeating the same reactions, even as a subtle frustration, a sense of being trapped by your own repetitions, begins to stir deep within. You see friends caught in similar loops, complaining about the same problems, making the same self-sabotaging choices, their lives seeming to replay familiar, unhelpful scenes. You recognize the exhaustion in their eyes, the resignation in their voices, and you realize, with a chilling clarity, that this automaticity, this mindlessness, is a subtle, insidious form of self-imprisonment. You feel the immense, suffocating weight of these ingrained patterns, convinced they are an unchangeable part of who you are. But then, a quiet question emerges from the deep. What if these ruts aren't inevitable paths, fixed by fate, but simply well-worn grooves, etched by repetition? What if the power to step out lies not in a grand upheaval, a sudden, dramatic transformation, but in a conscious, deliberate interruption of the automatic? Is your mind truly in charge, or merely on autopilot, following old, unchallenged programming? You discover a profound, liberating truth. Many of your reactions, your patterns, your habitual thoughts, they are not fixed decrees. They are merely impressions to which you have repeatedly given your assent, your silent agreement, until they hardened into default responses. Your power, you realize, is not in preventing the initial impression, which is often beyond your control, but in consciously withholding your assent, in refusing to let the automatic become the inevitable. You recognize that the rut isn't a force holding you down, but a habit you continually, unconsciously reinforce. This realization, it demands a vigilance, a profound awareness. You begin to observe the trigger, the impulse, and then, crucially, you insert a pause, a moment of conscious choice, a tiny space where you can interject. And in that deliberate act of conscious intervention, you reclaim your agency, stepping out of the rut and onto the path of intentional, self-directed freedom. That reclaimed agency, the profound liberation of stepping out of the rut, it is only half the journey. You've learned to interrupt the automatic, to withhold assent from unhelpful patterns, but merely stopping a destructive current leaves a void. Now, the deeper wisdom emerges, to actively, deliberately architect virtue into the very fabric of your daily existence. You find yourself in a moment where the old habit would have taken hold. Perhaps you've avoided the mindless scroll, or refrained from a knee-jerk negative comment. There is a quiet satisfaction in this act of omission. Yet, for a fleeting instant, a vacuum appears. The energy that once fed the old pattern now seeks a new channel. You realize that simply not doing something isn't enough. True transformation requires replacing the unwanted with the intentionally cultivated. You observe the lives of those you admire, not merely those who avoid vice, but those who actively embody virtue. Patience, courage, kindness, wisdom. Their character isn't a passive gift, but a cultivated landscape. You begin to question, how is such character forged? Is it a sudden revelation, or a relentless, deliberate shaping? You discover a profound, liberating truth. Virtue is not merely the absence of vice. It is a presence. It is a muscle, built through consistent, intentional exercise. Each day presents countless tiny opportunities to practice. Instead of that impulsive comment, you choose a moment of empathetic listening. Instead of a hurried reactive task, you approach it with focused diligence. Instead of seeking external validation, you choose to act in alignment with your own deepest values, silently, purposefully. This is the alchemy. You become the architect of your own soul, laying brick by deliberate brick. Each conscious choice, however small, to act with integrity, with courage, with justice, with temperance, it strengthens the very foundation of your character. You are not just resisting the old self, you are actively, mindfully building the new. You feel the profound shift. A quiet strength, a deeper sense of self-respect begins to permeate your being. Your life is no longer a series of reactions to external triggers, but a deliberate, intentional expression of your highest self. And in that profound, daily act of architecting virtue, you shape your very spirit, transforming intention into unshakable character. You feel it, don't you? That subtle tug, pulling your mind away from the present moment. One instant, you're replaying a past regret, a missed opportunity, a harsh word you wish you'd never spoken. The next, you're catapulted into an imagined future, a landscape of potential anxieties, looming deadlines, or anticipated joys that may never materialize. You find yourself inhabiting neither the now nor the then, but a constant, restless oscillation between what was and what might be. You see this restless dance in others too. Friends perpetually lamenting bygone eras, their eyes glazed over with nostalgia or bitterness, unable to fully engage with what is. Colleagues consumed by future promotions, their present work merely a stepping stone, their joy always deferred. You observe their profound inability to simply be, to find contentment in the fleeting present, their peace forever held hostage by the shadows of the past or the mirage of the future. You feel the immense, suffocating weight of this mental time travel, constantly robbing you of your most precious possession, the now. Then, a quiet, unsettling question begins to surface from the deep. Where do I truly exist? Is this constant mental journey productive, or merely a sophisticated form of distraction, preventing me from fully living the only moment that is truly real? This one. Is my true power found in revisiting history, or attempting to predict tomorrow, or in mastering the present breath? You discover a profound, liberating truth. The past is immutable, beyond your power to change. The future is uncertain, beyond your power to perfectly control. Both are externals, beyond your direct command. Your relentless mental travel, while feeling productive, is often a futile exercise, a deliberate surrender of your most vital resource, your attention, to forces you cannot govern. Your true power, your true moral arena, resides exclusively in this present moment, your choices, your judgments, your actions, right now. This realization, it isn't an invitation to forget the past or ignore future planning, but it is a profound recalibration. It invites you to recognize the mind's time machine for what it is. A powerful tool, yes, but one easily misused, one that can steal your presence, your peace, if allowed to run unchecked. You understand that your most valuable asset is the asterisk now, the only point of leverage you truly possess. And in that profound centering on the truth of this very moment, you reclaim your most precious resource, becoming fully present, fully alive. That profound centering on the truth of this very moment, it is not a passive insight, it is an active cultivation. You reclaimed your most precious resource, the now. But merely acknowledging its power is only the first breath. The deeper wisdom emerges, to actively, deliberately, anchor your entire consciousness to this eternal present. You find yourself immersed in a simple task, washing dishes, listening to a friend, walking through a park. The mind, accustomed to its tireless travels, still attempts to pull you away. It whispers of yesterday's regret or tomorrow's worry. You feel the subtle tug, the habitual urge to launch back into the mental time machine. But this time, you pause. A long, deliberate pause. Instead of following the mind's wandering threads, you consciously, firmly, gently bring your attention back to the warmth of the water on your hands, to the texture of the ceramic, to the precise words your friend is speaking, not just the implied meaning, to the feeling of the earth beneath your feet, the subtle scent of the air. You realize that the present is not fleeting. It is infinite, unfolding in an unbroken sequence of nows. You begin to distinguish between the mental constructs of past and future, which are mere thoughts, impressions, and the undeniable, tangible reality of this very instant. You observe others, perhaps, still lost in their distant mental landscapes, their eyes unfocused, their movements hurried, constantly missing the profound richness of their own unfolding lives. And in contrast, you feel a quiet, profound fullness, a deep resonance with existence itself. This is not a denial of memory or foresight. It is a profound act of self-mastery. It is the understanding that your power to act, to choose, to experience virtue exists only in this singular point of time. When you are fully present, your judgments are clearer, your actions more intentional, your empathy more profound. You become fully responsive to life, rather than reactive to shadows. You discover that the eternal now is not a philosophical abstraction, but the very ground of your being, the source of unshakable peace and profound engagement. And in that deliberate anchoring of your consciousness to the present, you find unshakable strength, rooted in the only moment that truly exists. You feel it, don't you? That sudden, jarring intrusion. A sharp, unexpected pain that demands your entire attention, or perhaps a dull, relentless ache that settles deep within, refusing to relinquish its grip. Your body, once a silent, loyal servant, now feels alien, a source of discomfort, a betrayer of your peace. You feel the immediate surge of resistance, the desperate urge for it to simply cease, convinced that your tranquility has been irrevocably shattered by this unwelcome visitor. You see it in the faces around you too. Friends battling chronic illness, their spirits weighed down not just by the physical burden, but by the relentless frustration, the gnawing question of, why me? Colleagues sidelined by injury, their once vibrant energy replaced by quiet despair, their lives seemingly put on hold. You observe their suffering, recognizing the potent blend of physical sensation and mental anguish, the powerful narrative that equates pain with profound evil, with utter ruination. You feel the immense, suffocating certainty that this physical discomfort holds the power to define your entire existence. Then, amidst the raw, unsettling ache, a quiet, ancient truth begins to surface. What if the physical sensation itself is only part of the story? What if your deepest suffering comes not from the pain itself, but from your judgment of it, your insistent declaration that it should not be, that it is inherently bad or unbearable? You discover a profound, liberating truth. The nerve endings sending signals, the physiological response within your body. These are externals. They are facts, indifferent in their nature. But the asterisk interpretation of that fact, the emotional recoil, the belief that this physical state has the power to destroy your inner world or negate your capacity for virtue, that is an internal choice, a judgment entirely within your grasp. You realize that the body will experience its sensations, as is its nature. But your mind does not have to add to the burden by labeling it a catastrophe, by resisting it with every fiber of your being. This isn't a denial of pain. It is a profound, active disengagement from its emotional tyranny. You learn to observe the sensation, to acknowledge its presence, without giving your assent to the destructive narratives that seek to amplify it into unbearable suffering. You separate the raw data of discomfort from the emotional weight you choose to place upon it. And in that deliberate act of distinguishing between sensation and judgment, you find a quiet, unshakable sanctuary, even amidst the body's profound betrayals. That quiet, unshakable sanctuary, found amidst the body's profound betrayals. It is not merely a place of observation. It is a launching pad. You've learned to distinguish between sensation and judgment, to separate the raw data of discomfort from the emotional weight. But physical suffering, in its relentless grip, often seeks to colonize more than just your attention. It seeks to colonize your spirit. You feel it, don't you? The persistence, the gnawing ache that refuses to subside, the debilitating fatigue that steals your energy. Even with your newfound clarity, the physical reality is undeniable, a constant, insistent demand for your despair. The temptation rises to identify with the suffering, to let the pain become your entire identity, convinced that a body in distress necessitates a mind in ruin. You see it in the eyes of others, too. Souls withered by chronic conditions, their lives reduced to a narrative of ailment, their spirit seemingly extinguished by the relentless physical burden. You watch them surrender not just their bodies but their minds to the tyranny of discomfort, and you feel the seductive pull to join them, to let the physical define the spiritual. to succumb to the idea that true fortitude is impossible when the body itself is in revolt. But then, a fierce, defiant whisper rises from the very core of your being. The body may be a prison, but the mind remains free. What if this physical suffering is not an obstacle to your virtue, but the very arena in which your deepest fortitude can be forged? What if your spirit, your reason, your capacity for courage remains entirely, resolutely unconquerable? You discover a profound, liberating truth. Your mind, your rational faculty, your capacity for choice, these are entirely separate from the material conditions of your body. The pain might scream, the illness might rage, but your judgment, your assent, your internal response, these remain eternally your own. You realize that while you cannot command the body to cease its suffering, you can command your mind to remain steadfast, to find a profound peace within the storm, to continue practicing virtue even amidst physical collapse. You can choose courage, patience, acceptance, even while enduring profound discomfort. This isn't a denial of pain. It is an act of profound, unwavering spiritual sovereignty. You actively choose to keep your inner citadel unbreached. And in that deliberate, unshakable assertion of your mind's freedom, you forge an unconquerable spirit, finding profound fortitude amidst physical suffering. You feel it, don't you? That subtle, gnawing question as you witness the ceaseless passage of time, the fading of memories, the quiet erosion of even grandest achievements. What will truly remain of you? You see the frantic striving around you. People building monuments, chasing fame, accumulating fortunes, all in a desperate, unspoken attempt to defy oblivion, to carve their names into the ledger of history. You find yourself caught in the same current, measuring your life against an imagined future, a grand legacy that demands endless effort and external recognition. You see friends consumed by this pursuit, sacrificing present joys for future acclaim, their peace contingent on how they will be remembered, on the echoes they leave behind. You observe their anxiety, their fear that their lives might, in the end, mean nothing, be forgotten, fade into insignificance. You feel the immense, suffocating pressure to leave a mark, to prove your existence through visible, lasting impact. Then, a quiet, unsettling question begins to surface from the deep. Does the true measure of a life reside in the world's remembrance, or in the quality of the life itself? Is legacy a public monument, or an internal transformation, subtly rippling outward? You discover a profound, liberating truth. The world's memory, its fickle applause, its shifting judgments, these are externals. They are beyond your control, as transient as the seasons. To anchor your sense of purpose, your very worth, to such an ephemeral force is to condemn yourself to perpetual anxiety. Your true legacy, you realize, is not found in the grand gestures or the widely publicized achievements. It is found in the indelible mark of your character, cultivated through countless virtuous choices, etched into your own soul and subtly influencing the lives closest to you. This realization, it doesn't diminish your desire to contribute, but it profoundly recalibrates your focus. It invites you to recognize that your greatest impact, your most enduring gift, is the person you become through deliberate, virtuous living. Your kindness, your integrity, your courage, your wisdom, these are the true echoes that resonate, shaping not just your life, but the lives of those you touch, far beyond the fleeting glare of public recognition. And in that profound shift, from external monument to internal cultivation, you find a quiet, unshakable purpose that transcends even the finality of time. That quiet, unshakable purpose, born of internal cultivation rather than external monument, it is not a passive contemplation. It is an active calling. You've accepted that your true legacy is etched into your character. Now, the deeper wisdom emerges to actively, deliberately craft a life of profound meaning and undeniable impact. one virtuous footprint at a time. You stand before a choice. An opportunity arises to take the easy path, to engage in a slight deceit for personal gain, or perhaps to simply turn a blind eye to an injustice. The old world's whispers still echo. No one will know. It's just a small thing. You deserve this. You feel the subtle pull of expediency, the temptation to compromise your inner compass for a fleeting external advantage. But this time, you pause. A long, deliberate pause. You do not ask, "What will this look like to others?" You ask, "What will this make of me?" Does this action align with the integrity, the courage, the justice, the wisdom I strive to embody? You understand that every single choice, every small act, is not merely a transaction in the external world, but a stroke on the canvas of your own soul, a definitive step in the shaping of your character. You observe others perhaps who chase external glory, their lives a series of grand yet often hollow gestures. Their impact, though visible, may feel ephemeral, lacking a true resonant core. And in contrast, you feel a profound, quiet strength. You choose the harder path. You act with integrity, not for applause, but because it is the right thing to do. You offer kindness, not for recognition, but because it flows from your true nature. You pursue excellence, not for fame, but for the inherent satisfaction of a job done well, of a faculty well exercised. This is the forging of purposeful footprints. Each deliberate act of virtue, however small, however unseen, creates a ripple. It strengthens your own spirit. It subtly influences those around you. It aligns you with the very fabric of a meaningful existence. Your impact is not measured by the echoes you leave in history books, but by the quiet, unwavering resonance of a life lived with unwavering, internal purpose. You discover that true meaning is not found in leaving a monumental legacy, but in the deliberate, consistent act of living a virtuous life, creating an indelible impact, one purposeful footprint at a time. And in that profound daily act of deliberate virtue, you craft a life of unshakable meaning, echoing far beyond what the eye can see.